Hello, and welcome to Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr. Today on our program we have as our guest Jim Schoffstall, and we have a testimony today about how God uses broken vessels. So stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back. Uh, I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr. with Jim Schoffstall. So tell me, Jim, how does God use broken vessels for His glory?
Well, it was something for a long time I had a hard time putting into words, and that's where I want to kind of start off. It was a time in my life where I didn't know what direction to go. I was literally sitting, like if you could paint the mental picture of sitting in the middle of a road that went in like that broke off into like eight different directions, and I was just sitting there like, man, what am I gonna do? And I wasn't asking the right people for advice in what direction to go. In fact, I was lazy, so I really wasn't asking which way to go. I was just trying at that point in time to keep my head above the water. I was really struggling uh, spiritually in my life at that time. And what I want to focus on here is I was praying for a while, and I mean, for me, I wasn't listening. I was praying, I wasn't listening, and uh, I was getting frustrated. I was really getting frustrated because it felt like my prayers were falling on deaf ears, and I know God hears us.
Yeah, I believe we all can relate to that to some degree. We're so quick to, uh, for the most part, get into our prayer closets, but we have a problem with sitting still oftentimes long enough to receive a reply from the
Sure,
throne room.
absolutely. And I had no, I mean, I had at that time I was just, I had no spiritual patience. I was just kind of like, God, come on. I'm in this pit right now, and I need help out. And um, a lot of times we'll find ourselves asking for just demanding things from the Lord, and that's really what I felt like I was doing at the time. And what the Lord was saying, I feel, was, you're asking for something. I'm going to give you a situation where you'll get it in the end, and I'll give it to you in the end, but you're going to go through this so that you learn the preciousness of what this is. And just all the things that I was going through at the time, that statement that I had just said, the preciousness of what I would receive if I would only follow what he has for me and get to and get there and get in that area and be following those and following the footsteps he has for me, instead of really honestly just saying a quick prayer and thinking that I did all good things and then I'm done. Like,
Right.
yeah, I just, oh, I'm clear now. I prayed. That's what I'm supposed to do is seek ye
Yeah,
first.
it's a process for
Yeah,
sure.
and I just, again, at that time, I was recovering from beating myself up for many years, um, and what had happened was I was praying to God for, God, I just want some sort of drive. I just want some sort of drive in life. I want just, I want to feel like, like I did before when I first came to Christ, and when I just want to feel myself again, because I didn't feel like myself at all. And I know a lot of people reach that point in their life where they look back, they step out of themselves, and they're like, who are you? What have you become? And then they're hard on themselves. And I was really in a place like that. And I had gotten home from a long day at work, and I worked on a factory floor at a place, and I just got home. My feet were killing me, I wasn't I wasn't in a good place spiritually, and it is about um, that was a second shift job, and I had gotten home, and and by the time I was ready and done for the night, it was about 1, 2 in the morning. I get this phone call. Um, and listen, at this time, if I get a phone call, then it's usually something important. You know, anybody, you get a phone call at 1, 2 in the morning, it's usually something important.
Yeah.
But I got a phone call from this friend that I haven't seen since high school. At this time, I've been a couple years out of high school, and I get this phone call from a friend that had moved to another state and was really struggling, was really in a dark place. And the first thing, and one of the only things that I can even remember from the phone call, was the first words that they said to me is, Jim, it's not good. And now, again, I haven't spoken to this person in like 3 years.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we all have friends where, you know, if we don't see each other for 3 years, we can talk to each other like it's nothing after we see them after a while. And we've always had that relationship I had with that person. And I knew the tone of voice, and I knew the words that came first. I was like, okay, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I need to ignore me right now because I was really engulfed in me at that time. I was really worried about me, and I really felt like God let this phone call happen because it was really just me worrying about me for a long time, and God wanted me to use me to touch other people, to help other people.
Yeah.
And he picked a time to show me. He picked a time to show me that I wasn't ready, you know.
And
But
at 2 in the morning.
yeah, I didn't. Well, put it this way: I didn't think I was ready, but the Lord knows us, and He knows the hairs on our head, and He knows us better than we do, and He knew I could, you know, I could help. And what ended up happening was this person was in the middle of harming themselves on the phone. Listen, I at that point, I said to the person, I said, give me 5 seconds. And what I did was I went and I prayed. I said, God, give me the words to say. You know, speak through me. Let me be your broken vessel here. Let me be this conduit right now because I don't know in myself what to say. And I said stuff. I said stuff that the Lord had me say during that time. I really felt that He really took over at that time. Not that I sounded like God or anything weird and mystical like that, but it was like a yeah. I wasn't like I wasn't like possessed or anything. It was just it was really something where you have to realize you can't do it on your own. And I knew in that moment, man, I was like, man, if Jim does this, I don't know what's going to happen. And what I remember was at the end of the phone call, a relative of theirs was there, and they were helping mend whatever had happened, and after, you know, I remember that being the thing that I was happy with, and that I hung up then, that we had ended the phone call. And it wasn't like a thing where I led them to the Lord. It wasn't like a thing where, you know, I had like a spiritual word for them afterwards. It was just like, you're okay? Cool. Yeah. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're alive.
Sometimes it's like that. God sends people before we ever turn to Him, to keep us on the path that will eventually lead us to Him.
It's predetermined. And, yeah.
And I know I have plenty of examples in my own life where I was that man. Not literally that man, but I was like that. And God just sent somebody to reroute me. Um, just like my one episode rerouted back to grace. Like God just has a way of bringing us full circle at the appointed time. And to everything, there is a season.
Yeah.
And would you say that this really woke up something inside of you to?
It was something where once we hung up the phone and I laid down for that night, man, I didn't know what to think, because I knew there was a string of prayers that I was praying for a long time, for years, and I felt that I wasn't getting answers, and I was getting frustrated. And I knew that what this exactly what this was an answered prayer, is what this was. And what I was trying to think was, God, what, I didn't pray for this. And I was like, I don't want my friends hurting themselves. But
Yeah,
it was something. It was really, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that the answer prayer was them going through something dark on the other end of the phone. It's that God uses and sets and divine appointments where He uses us despite us.
Yep. No. Absolutely. And what that had done for me was, it really, and shortly after all this is where I started, not consequently, I started helping out with the drum line at the school. But this was really a turning point in my life where I knew I needed to be a vessel where I knew I could speak to people. And I knew before, like, I wanted to just distance myself from people. That's a mentality that you just get when you're in a dark place. You don't want to be around people. But I knew that God wanted to use me to either be teaching or to just be helping out someplace, not only for them, that I could help instruct, that I could help, other people out, but for me, that God can show who He is through the things that we do. And I tell you what, was a grueling process. And I checked back years later with that friend. They're doing so good. They have a family. It's such a beautiful thing. And I know it wasn't me. I know it wasn't me. That is not something a human can do. That they can do on their own. So it was something that I knew it was all God, and it was such an encouragement, even those years later, because God was already doing other things in my life that was encouraging me, and calling and checking up on that friend was even more encouraging, and I grew that much closer to the Lord through that whole process. But growing closer to the Lord and going through the things that you're going through is not always an easy thing. We really have to stretch ourselves. We really have to get out of ourselves a lot of times and stop listening to our own voice and listen to God's voice and really focus on what He's telling us and what we should be doing in our life, so that He can take you, the broken vessel, and mend you and use you, and that you can share the testimony of that.
Amen.
So,
yeah, it's very encouraging.
And I know at the time, and even now, I don't think it still sets in how profound it was that a friend of mine, you're looking out there every day, and it's sad. Like, you're seeing people just take their own lives, and I know that it probably still hasn't set in fully how profound it was that, the Lord used me to help bring somebody, from a very numb, dark place at that time. And, it's not even, I'm not saying, look at me, that I've arrived anywhere at all. But But look at God. Look what He can do, and don't put a leash on God, because He can do anything. There's no limitations.
There is hope. There
Amen.
is
Hope is real.
a light in the midst of the darkness.
That's right.
If you know anybody that is going through a dark season, that lost a loved one that was very close to them, or that wasn't, and they regret not spending enough time with them, and just are really going through a dark place, be there for them.
Amen.
Reach out to them, and just be that light in the darkness, even if things aren't going the way that you imagine they should be going. And if you are that person on the other side of the phone, there is hope.
Amen.
There is light in the darkness. Jesus is hope. He is with us in the midst of adversity, in the midst of turmoil, in the midst of losing everything. I've lost everything many times, and I've been that person. And I'm glad that I reached out to people, and I'm glad that God appointed for people to meet me at the most crucial points in my life to help catapult me toward a calling that was bigger than myself.
Amen.
So don't be afraid to reach out to somebody that you trust, and if there is nobody like that in your life, reach out to me. I will be more than happy to walk with you through that, or connect you to a pastor who can counsel you through that time. So
Amen.
That's all we have for this week's Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr., with my guest, Jim Schoffstall. Stay tuned next week. Until then, God bless, be blessed, and stay blessed. In Jesus' name.